Good afternoon and welcome to WISER. We are so thrilled to have many of you joining us today from around the state and even from around the country. I am Dena Ladd, the Executive Director for the Missouri Cures Education Foundation, and our mission is to protect and promote medical research in the state. 8 years ago, we started the Women in Science, Entrepreneurship, and Research Initiative, and it's still going strong. We have featured so many amazing women from around Missouri and all cities around the state. So thank you for those of you that have supported us over the years. I would like to thank Ellie Hayes, who is the other half of the Missouri Cures team and is our outreach director. She's done an amazing job in 2020 and 2021, making sure all of our virtual events run smoothly. Ellie does a great job engaging our key volunteers and supporters. So thank you, Ellie. We could not have these great programs without our sponsor support. I would like to thank our presenting sponsors, Washington University in St. Louis, Stowers Institute for Medical Research in Kansas City. Our gold sponsor is the Steinberg Family Foundation. Silver sponsors include Benson Hill, Thompson Coburn, St. Louis University, Bear Climate Corporation. Our bronze sponsor is St. Louis Community College. And finally, our media sponsors who have done such a great job promoting this event. Fox 2 News, KPLR 11, Town and Style. So thank you so much for your support. We thought it would be nice to wrap up 2021 with an event that focused on wellness and health and hear advice on how to balance work and our personal lives. I want to remind all of you that are joining us today, please put your questions in the chat box and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. So today we're partnering with the Fit and Food Connection for this WISER program. The Fit and Food Connection offers people living in food and fitness deserts access to free nutritional food, physical activities, educational workshops, and personal coaching to encourage and support healthy living. I encourage all of you to go on their website, Fit and Food Connection, and consider supporting this important nonprofit organization. One of the Fit and Food Connection's co-founders and co-director, Joy Millner, is going to start us off today with a mindful moment. Joy is a certified personal trainer and nutrition consultant, as well as a wellness speaker. She's been teaching people how to live a healthier life for 25 years, and I am absolutely thrilled to have her kick off our event today. Joy?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Are we good? Okay, great. Happy Friday. I am honored to be here. I am co-founder and co-director of the Fit and Food Connection, along with my partner, Gabby Cole, who is one of the panelists today. And I am going to try to make us all relax a little bit in about 5 minutes. So I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you take this next 5 minutes and see how we can all refresh, refuel, refocus, and how we all really need to take time out of our busy lives and bring down our stress levels and just relax for a moment. Stress is really bad for all of us. So spending time on health and wellness is the most important thing. Heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, I could go on and on and on about the physical and mental issues with stress. So taking time for self-care, we teach small changes yield big results. It doesn't take a lot of time or an effort, but I encourage all of you amazing people that are listening who are probably wives, mothers, a million other roles in your life, directors, leaders, to realize that you are also on this planet for yourself and you were given one life. So it's really important that when you feel great, you can be such a better person. So take time for yourself. The Fit and Food Connection, we go do this in our underserved communities, and we really try to bring our community together. And hopefully you can get a better understanding after we have a little breathing session of how we can all feel better. What I'd like for you to do is just float your eyes closed wherever you are. If you don't want to, you don't have to, and just start breathing. Take a moment. You are probably breathing really shallow, not even focusing. So before we do anything, I just want you to expand your breath. Start inhaling and exhaling, and understand that just a couple minutes a day of Breathing, stretching, listening to your favorite song, lighting a candle, all of these things will impact your health so greatly, and it doesn't have to be huge goals. So continue breathing shallow. See if you can increase a little bit more. Maybe it's a 2-count inhale and a 2-count exhale. Maybe eventually it goes to a 4-count inhale and a 4-count exhale. As you breathe, start thinking about things that are absolutely true. I am worthy. I am special. I am blessed. I am courageous. And I am loved. As you breathe deeply, again, maybe now you're really expanding your belly and visualizing where this breath is going. See if you can bring your shoulders up to your ears on the inhale, and on the exhale, let everything go. Just really bring everything in and see how tall you can grow on those exhales. As you continue this, I want you to think about inhaling something positive, some blessing. Maybe it's something that we haven't spent enough time appreciating in our lives that is right here in front of us. Inhale those things that make us feel wonderful. Exhale out those things that are not serving them as well. How many times we have something in our brain that we cannot act on immediately? Let it go. So I want you to visualize these inhales of really positive, peaceful things and start clearing the clutter and the fog from your brain on those exhales. Let's do a couple more of those, letting go. Then when you're ready and feel comfortable, I just want you to float your eyes open. You can keep them closed if you want. Let's drop an ear to a shoulder. Drop that chin, roll it all the way through. Again, think about if you've lost those inhales and exhales, letting our neck go, letting our shoulders go. Spending just a minute of peace and positivity. Give me one more of those. And when you're ready, I want our last 3 breaths together. If you want to bring those arms up overhead, go for it. A big, peaceful, beautiful inhale, letting go of something that is not serving us. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale up. Something peaceful, positive. Remember, you can do this every day in very small amounts, and it'll just make us that more motivated for our days. All right, last one. Everything we got. Peace, positivity, health, wellness. Let it go. I'm so excited to enjoy this seminar with you all. Thank you.
Joy, that was amazing. And I think that's what we all needed on this Friday after a crazy week. So thank you, Joy. We love being your partner for this event. And thank you for that mindful moment. Now I would like to introduce Kim Becking, our keynote speaker. Kim is a change and leadership expert, impactful motivational speaker, consultant, and coach. Her mission today is to help you build a momentum mindset to ditch the overwhelm, find more balance, boost your resilience, and bounce forward no matter what. Sounds really good to me. And as a leading thought leader on thriving in the midst of change, Kim has been featured in the media with People Magazine, the New York Times, and Good Morning America. We are so excited to have her with us today. So Kim, take it away.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Who else is excited to be here? So quick question for you right now. How many of you have been on a boring webinar over the last 20 months or 21 months? If so, give me an exclamation point or a yes in the chat. Because here's the thing. This is not going to be one of those. We're going to talk about how you can continue to refresh and refuel and refocus and boost your resilience no matter what else happens. I'm seeing lots of exclamation points coming in for sure. So quick question for you. How many of you have felt like this recently? Now, I have 3 teenagers, so I feel like this on a daily basis, but so many of us have been dealing with so much. particularly for us as women. So much has fallen on us during this pandemic, during the last 20 months, worrying about the health of ourselves, of our family, our work situation, our financial situations, political issues and negativity, and just the stress and the uncertainty and the overwhelm, crisis schooling. I don't call it regular school homeschooling. I call it crisis schooling, because we were all in the middle of crisis schooling. I had to learn how to do algebra and calculus, which put me in this mood. So for you right now, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? Give me one word in the chat right now about how you're feeling, because here's what I'm hearing from so many of you. So many are exhausted and tired and overwhelmed, and at the same time, excited and hopeful and ready for what's next. Yeah, we're seeing a lot: busy, stressed, overwhelmed. Don's awesome. Somaya's tired. All of you have dug deep the last 20 months. You found resilience muscles that you didn't even know you had. And now what we're finding is so many are exhausted and overwhelmed. You don't have anything left to give. Your reserves are empty. So during our time together today, I'm going to share key tips and strategies on how you can continue to refuel and boost your resilience. Because here's the thing: every single one of you are rock stars. You have continued to show up for your organizations, to show up as a leader, to show up in your family, in your community, in the world. And I want you to celebrate that. I want you right now to think about, what am I most proudest of? Or what are all of the awesome accomplishments that I have achieved over the last 20 months in the middle of a global pandemic? Because often we look at what we haven't accomplished, and I want you to celebrate what you have accomplished. I want you right now, actually, to think about the most amazing concert you have ever been to in your life. Okay, everybody got it? The most amazing concert you've ever been to. And I want you to imagine yourself on that stage. You are the lead singer, you are the lead guitarist, you are rocking it out. And right now, I want you to think about your most amazing rock star move. And I want you to own it. I want you to do your rock star move on the count of 3 right now. I know I can't see you, but I can feel you in the chat. Now, if you're driving, don't do the rock star move. But I want you to imagine that. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And I want you to own the fact that you are awesome and you are amazing and you are rock stars, because you are here. And I want you to continue to celebrate that, to take that back, to do that with your kids, to do that at the office, wherever you're working from right now, because you are continuing to make a difference. You are continuing to show up, and that's worth celebrating right now. Because every single one of you right now in this moment has this 1440. Any guesses as to what this is? 1440? If you have any guesses, put that in the chat. Put that in the chat. 1440 minutes in a day. Minutes in a day. Close, Don. Don said seconds. Minutes in a day. Every single one of you gets to decide how you're going to show up, how you're going to use your 1440 minutes every single day. You get to decide. So I want you, without guilt, focusing on what you are. I want you to own your 1440, no matter what else is happening around you. Oh, Elisa says things on my to-do list. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Yeah, 1440. So in our time together, I'm going to share 4 keys on how you can continue to rock all of this ongoing change and uncertainty. Because remember, we still haven't seen those murder hornets from 2020. Remember those? Yeah, we're still waiting. So I want you to rock your change, rock your uncertainty, and continue to boost your resilience no matter what else happens. Now, here's the thing about resilience. And you all dug deep. You've been more resilient than you ever knew possible. A lot of people talk about resilience and they talk about what? Bouncing back. I don't want you to just bounce back. I want you to bounce forward stronger and better than before. You see, resilience is like a muscle, and you've continued to dig deep. You've continued to exercise that muscle. And now that muscle is tired. So I want you to focus on refueling and renewing and refocusing yourself and taking care of you. That's what today is about. And that's why I'm so excited that you all are here and you've decided to continue to show up during this time. Now here's the thing. I thought I was that rock star. I even had my own title, General Manager of the Universe. Not just of Missouri, where I live, I'm here in Columbia, not just of the law firm where I used to work, I'm a recovering attorney now, but of the entire universe. I wanted to control everything. Does anyone else like to control things? If so, give me a yes or an exclamation point in the chat. We're women, we like to be in control, right? And I had my 5-year plan. I had my 10-year plan. I knew when I was going to make law partner. I knew when I was going to retire. I even wrote my own eulogy so nobody else would mess it up. That's how much I like to control things. And what did 2020 and 2021 teach us all? Right? Sometimes in life, we are not in control. We are not in control. 20 years ago, at the age of 30, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Didn't see that coming. I was in the middle of planning my son Brandon's 2-year-old birthday party when I heard those 4 words. Since that time, divorce, my husband left me for a very good friend and neighbor whom I was helping with her own divorce, watching her 4 children, giving her money. Her name was Kim. She then took my name, moved into my old house, showing up on my credit report for 5 years, all these fun things, right? I didn't see that coming either. And then other ups and downs, life challenges. I remarried, fell in love, didn't plan on doing that again, married a widower with 2 kids. We're blending while mending. And then I'm dealing with older aging parents and I'm in the middle of a sandwich. Anyone else feeling the sandwich? Yeah, that's a lot. Add to that the ups and downs of business and being an entrepreneur and feeling like there's too much to do and not enough time. And all of you are feeling that too, right? That's why we need to focus on what Joy asked us to do and take a breath and realize that life is to be lived, not controlled. So I had to learn, just like I want you to learn, how to resign as general manager of universe, how to let go of all of the things right now that you are not in control over, that you don't have control over. I want you to focus on your mindset. That's how you continue to boost your resilience and bounce forward. I want you to use something that I call the stop, shift, and reframe. And I want you to make a list of all the things you can control and all of the things that you can't control. And then I want you to stop, shift, and reframe. And I want you to focus on the can, to focus on right now in this moment. What are those things that you do have control over? That's where I want you to focus. And here's the thing, there is so much uncertainty right now. There are so many things out of our control. And often that's where we get in this overwhelm and we have this worry and this fear and, decision fatigue and worry fatigue and negativity and the exhaustion. So that's why I want you to stop, shift, and reframe. Right now in this moment, I want you to go on a ride with me. Now, I do not like roller coasters. My son years ago talked me into getting on this roller coaster. The Xanax did help. I'm not going to lie. But right now, I want you to pretend you're on this roller coaster with me. I want you to put your hands out in front, unless you're driving. I want you to put your hands out in front right now. And I want you to hold on tight. I want you to grip on tight. I want you to hold on so much it hurts, right? And here we go. We're going up this roller coaster. Are you with me? Here we go. Here we go. Are we ready? Woo! Put your hands up and let go. Woo! Which felt better? Clenched fist or hands up? Put that in the chat. Which felt better? Clenched fist or hands up? Hands up. Yes, hands up. Because the thing is, letting go changes the whole ride. And the only thing certain is uncertainty. Change and uncertainty are certain, but growth is optional. So it's important to understand how adaptable are you? How can you continue to deal with all of the ongoing change and uncertainty that you will deal with? So I'm going to launch a poll here. And if you can't utilize the poll, you can also put it in the chat. Where are you on this scale? It's important to have that self-awareness and that emotional intelligence to understand where you're at. 1 to 3, I hate change. I fight it. I resist it, right? 4 to 7, yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. We like the change that we get to control. It's a change that we don't choose that we don't like so much. 8 to 9, change is good. I like change. And 10, change rocks. Bring it on. Where are you on that scale? Share with us now where you're at, and then we'll share the results here. Because here's the thing. It's important to recognize where you are, and we can go ahead and close out that poll and share results. So Michelle says she's an 8. So it's important to understand where are you, and here's the thing. Not only where are you, but where are those around you? Where are those around you? And Ellie, if you want to share those results with everybody, that would be great as well. Yeah, so most of you, 58% are in that meh, right? You're in that, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So how do you move up that scale? And how do you get those around you to move up that scale as well? Which is so important right now. You love change, but those around me hate it. Yeah, exactly, Katrina. So how do you continue to move them up that scale? And here's the thing. Right now here, everyone is so excited. I can't wait to get back to normal. I can't wait to figure out this new normal. Y'all, here's the thing. There is no new normal. There is only what is now and what is next. What is now and what is next. And often our head goes to the worry and the fear and the things that we can't control. So I want you right now in this moment to focus on what is now and then what is next. What else can you be excited about? That's where the magic can happen. And then when everything else seems to be falling apart, or there's chaos and there's that overwhelm and there's that stress and there's just not enough time in the day, I want you to take a breath and I want you to remember to stay grounded in your why. Now, my why, right? My why is Brandon. You see a picture of him here. He was just turning 2 when I was diagnosed. And these are my new whys, right? My blended family. But 20 years ago, I had my why was Brandon. And I had 3 things I wanted to see. I wanted to see him go to kindergarten, and he did that. And I followed the school bus like any mom would, right? And I was crying, but I wasn't crying because I was sad he was going to school. I was crying because I was happy to be there to see it, to witness it. The second thing I wanted to see was for him to go to college. And he did that. And he graduated from high school and went to college. The third thing I wanted to see was for him to pick his laundry up off the floor. Anybody else relate? Now, I've had to learn to let that go. He lives in an apartment now with a roommate, so I've let that go. But then my why changed, right? I had the blended family. You all are my why too, to help you continue to boost your resilience and be more adaptable during this time. So for you, what is your why? I want you to focus on your why and stay grounded in that why. Put a picture on your phone. Put a picture next to your desk. Write it down. Put it in a visible place where you can see it, because the why is what grounds you. The why and what matters most, that keeps you focused. That gives you perspective on the hard days. So I want you to focus on that why. So that first key is to resign as general manager. Are we feeling a little lighter? If so, give me a yes or an exclamation point. That second key is to overcome what I call momentum busters. These are the things that hold you back. They keep you up at night. They make you feel like this. They stress you out. It's important for you to identify what are those things for you. What are those things for you? What are those momentum busters? What's holding you back? One quick note, I see a lot of people commenting in the chat. If you can make sure that you're commenting to everyone and not just hosts and panelists, that way everyone can see your comments so that we all know we're connected and we're not alone. So often one of the biggest momentum busters is, guess what? Ourselves, particularly as women. Anybody else have this little inner bully right here that talks to them, that tells them you're not good enough, you can't do that, that's not a good idea, right? That voice of doubt and fear and insecurity and self-sabotage. Does anyone else have that little voice? Now, my little voice, her name is Edna. I want you to name your inner bully. Naming your inner bully allows you to shut down Edna on those days, right? To shut down that inner voice. So I want you to name your inner bully to claim that power back. And then Instead of focusing on what you are not, which is often where we go, I want you to focus on what you are. You are the only you out of 7.7 billion people in this entire world, the only you that has your unique talents, skills, experiences, backgrounds that you bring to your work, that you bring to life, that you bring to your community, to your families, to the world. And I want you to celebrate that. I want you to make a list of what are your I ams. You know, my I am, I'm strong, I'm grounded, I'm more than enough. What would be your I ams? I want you to share that in the chat right now. What would be your 3 I ams? What would come after your words? Because one of the longest relationships you will have is with yourself. So I want you to start showing up with that confidence. Make that list of all the awesome things that you have. And here's the thing, if you can't think of your I ams, ask those around you. Ask those around you. Get an awesome file. Letters, notes from family, from friends, from colleagues at work that have shared how awesome you are. Keep that on hand on your bad days. Focus on that. And that will serve you as you move forward. I also want you to give yourself grace and permission right now in this moment to feel whatever it is you need to feel. This is a picture of my friend Patty. Patty was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 24, the only reason I found my lump. And when I was diagnosed, Patty gave me a 2-sided handwritten card that I still have in my desk. And I want to read this to you because this is so powerful for all of us right now in this moment to give ourselves grace and permission to feel whatever it is we need to feel. And it says, you are allowed to be sad, to feel helpless, to be tired, to be depressed, to be lonely, to be angry, to cry, to feel out of control, to feel overwhelmed, to feel scared, to grieve, to feel like no one can relate, to wish this never happened to you or to others, to feel behind, to wonder what if, to long for simple things and simple times, to wish for more. But on the flip side, and you turn it over, and it says, you are allowed to find the good, to be grateful, to feel loved, to be hopeful, to realize you are not alone, to find joy, to realize you are stronger than you ever thought, to laugh, to be surrounded by people who care, to find your grit, to give yourself grace, to do what you can, to learn, to ask for help, to make a difference, to be you. Which side of the card are you on today? And I think for so many, we may be on both sides of the card right now at the same time. We're excited and exhausted. We're overwhelmed and hopeful. And I have 3 teenagers, so I'm flipping back and forth, sometimes on a minute-by-minute basis. So it's important for you to recognize where are you in this moment. Emotional agility and emotional intelligence right now are no longer soft skills and things that are nice. It's things that we must have, not only as a woman, but as a leader in our organizations. And so for you, where are you on the card right now? And not only where are you, where are those around you? Where are those around you? Because we're all dealing with things that are hard right now. And we're all, as I've said since the beginning, we're all in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. So right now in this moment, someone on this call, their boat may be sinking. Their boat may be sinking right now. Do you need to get a bucket and help bail them out? Ask people how they're doing. Understand where they're coming from. Take a breath and give them that grace and assume that positive intent. Because I don't know about you, but does anyone feel like right now in this moment, we're on an episode of Mean Girls? There's a lot of toxicity out there, right? There's a lot of negativity. So we've got to take a breath and understand others may be in a different place right now and really showing up as our best self. Because here's the thing, there is no right way to do a pandemic. Have any of you ever been through a pandemic besides the one we're in right now? No. We're all doing the best we can where we are. Some nights my kids had Fritos and Thin Mints. Yeah, Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies for dinner. I ate 21 boxes of Thin Mints over the last 20 months. So I want you to give yourself grace and understand, you know, I had great plans. I was going to write my next book. I was going to do all these things. I was barely surviving, taking care of 3 kids, parents. My own business was turned upside down because I travel and speak for a living and consult. And just like all of you have dealt with all of those things. So give yourself the grace and stop comparing. let go of the guilt, realize you are imperfectly perfect right where you are. And as a part of that, I also want you to prioritize your well-being. And Joy shared some great tools earlier. We don't have time to dive too deep into this today, but I want you to prioritize your well-being right now in this moment. And we're going to talk about this on the panel as well. What is in your resilience toolkit? There are 288 5-minute segments in a day. Can you find at least 5 minutes a day to do something for yourself? How many of you have skipped lunch because you were working or too busy doing other things? If so, give me a yes or an exclamation point in the chat. How many of you have sat at your desk longer than an hour without getting up and moving your body? If so, give me a yes in the chat or an exclamation point. Yes. We all do it. I'm guilty of it too. You are the only one that has that control and has that power. So I want you to start thinking about what are the boundaries that you can set. How can you start taking care of yourself? Because you've heard that saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I like that as a mom. But if you're not healthy, you can't serve anyone else. What do you do when your phone battery gets on 10%? What do you do when your phone gets on 10%? Many will say panic. And then guess what you do? You recharge it. And for many of us, we are recharging our phones more than we're recharging ourselves. And you deserve more than that. You deserve more than that. So I want you to think about what are your priorities? What are your priorities and how can you start protecting your time and your energy? Here's the thing about work-life balance. Y'all, there is no such thing as work-life balance. It is work-life blend. It is work-life integration. You are one person. What affects you at home affects you at work. What affects you at work affects you at home. And now the lines are more blurred than ever in this work from anywhere world. So how do you start setting those boundaries? How do you learn to say no? Y'all, I have a no button. A no button. Because here's the thing, saying no allows you to say yes to what really matters. So I want you to start letting go of the guilt and learning to say no so you can say yes to yourself. And how do you start setting those boundaries? You know, I say there are 3 types of people in the world. Fillers fill you up. You leave, you feel good. Then we have the bumps on a log. They just kind of sit there, don't really do much. And then guess what we have? The drainers. These are the people that suck the life right out of the room. Anybody know any drainers? I feel like there's a lot of those right now. Who you surround yourself with, what you let into your life matters. So what's draining your energy? I've snoozed more people on Facebook the last year than ever before. Did you know you can snooze people for 30 days? I've unsubscribed from things. I've let people go. I've let things go. So for you, what gives you energy? What brings you energy? What are those boosters? And what are those things that you need to start letting go of? And then I want to ask you this, and we don't need to launch a poll. We'll just have everybody put their answers in the chat. Do you have a not to-do list? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you have a not to-do list. This is how you start setting boundaries. I see a lot of people saying no. If nothing else, I want you to take this and I want you to run with it and make your not to-do list. This will let you start setting boundaries. Let me give you an example of what's on my not to-do list. My own graphic design, just because I can doesn't mean I should. My own accounting, no thank you. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that I don't even think I could do. Anyone else's laundry in my house. When you're 10 in my house, you learn to do your own laundry. Now they don't put it away the way I would, but I've had to learn to let that go. Phone at the dinner table, texting or emailing clients or colleagues past 7 p.m. Right? We're in this 24/7 world. And so much of this, even before the pandemic, we were all busier than ever, right? The busy world that we live in. We've all created this ourselves. So we have to learn how to start setting those boundaries. And it's hard, but I want you to think about all the busy, right? And there's a difference between being busy and being productive. So I want you to think about what would be on your not to-do list. I want you to get one. You can even share it in the chat if you want to, but I want you to get a not to-do list. And then I want you to start thinking about how you can start to ask for help. And as women, We struggle with this, but people want to help us. And I want you to start using this. This is called the DARE technique. I want you to master the 4 A's. What are things that you can delegate, that you can automate? Maybe things have changed and you need to renegotiate some things. You know, I did this when I was going through my cancer, and I had to hop off of some community boards. And now it was, you know, with my kids in sports, and I would say, well, come back to me in 5 years when I'm not gone every night and weekend with sports, right? So what are the boundaries you need to think about, and then eliminate? What are those things that you need to eliminate? So actually make a list of all your obligations. It might be a long list, all your obligations, all the things you need to do at work and home. And then I want you to think about, what can I delegate? What can I automate? What can I renegotiate? And what can I eliminate? Or what do I need to keep? I want you to start thinking about this in a different way, how you can take back your 1440, how you can own it, how you can really focus on what you do have control over. And often another big momentum buster are fears. Fears are what keep us stuck. They hold us back. We all think about these worst case scenarios in our heads, right? That's where that inner bully comes out. This is a picture of me the day I lost my hair. It started coming out in clumps in the shower. I was supposed to go introduce someone at a forum focused on the first female president of the United States 20 years ago. Now I could have called and canceled and they would have understood, but I decided to show up. I shaved my head, I put a hat on, and I showed up. I didn't stop because of fear. I moved because of purpose. I moved because of purpose. So I want you to start thinking about things in a different way. How can you move because of purpose? How can you look at, you know, rejection or things that don't go your way in a different way? You know, I think back to this right here. These are 55 rejection letters from publishers. Now I could have stopped at 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, but I knew we had a bigger purpose. So we kept moving forward. And out of that, you know, came a book focused on young women and breast cancer, national bestseller, you know, New York Times People magazine, but more important, we were saving lives. So I want you to start thinking about how you can continue to move forward even when there are obstacles, because your passion and your why is bigger than any obstacle that may be put in your way. So I want you to continue to grit up, not give up. Ask for help when you need to, set those boundaries and grit up. But here's the thing. There will be people along the way that try to hold you back, whether it's yourself and your own inner bully or someone around you. You know, I think back to my high school guidance counselor, Miss Farmer. I was so excited to go to college. First one in my family to go to school, to go to college. And I went in one day to Miss Farmer to ask her to write a letter of recommendation. And Miss Farmer, you know, I was so excited. Her hair, you know, her hair was in a bun. She had on these Coke bottle glasses sitting behind her desk. And I said, Miss Farmer, I'm so excited. Will you write me a letter of recommendation for college? And Miss Farmer looked at me in only the way she could. And she said, you're not college material. I was devastated. This was my dream. I went home to my mom, all 5'1" of her, said, Kim, you are always going to have those people. You get to decide how you're going to show up and what you're going to do. You get to write your own story, just like all of you. So I went to college. I went to law school. I sent Miss Farmer an invitation to my law school graduation. She didn't come, and she since retired and passed away. But the sad part of that story, I wasn't the only one she told that to. I found out years later. And other people listened to her, and their paths were very different. So how we show up, who we surround ourselves with, who we listen to, whether it's our own inner bully or others around us, matters, particularly for every single one of you on this call. So I want you to continue to grit up, not give up. And in the end, I want you to remember that you have those slingshot moments, right? Things out of your control, the worry, the fear, all the things holding you back. And right now, what's happening in these slingshot moments? You have dozens of these a day. There's no forward motion. There's no momentum. I want you to think about how you can continue to let go. Because if we don't, that's when we get tired and exhausted. So right now in this moment, what are those things you can let go of? It's not just the big things. It's the little things too. Like this. This is what would greet me when I would leave and come back. No one in my family knows how to change the toilet paper roll. Anybody else? Now, during 2020, I was just glad we had toilet paper. But I realized this was taking just as much energy as the big things. So I had to learn to let it go. So for you, What are those things right now in this moment that you need to let go of? Actually make a list, and then stop, shift, and reframe and start letting go. That third key is to build connection and community. And that's exactly the purpose of today. So how can you continue to build that connection and dig deeper and meet people where they are? I've been playing text roulette since the beginning of the pandemic. Every day I go to my phone, I scroll in my texts, and I stop on 3 people and I text them. I ask them how they're doing, or thank you for this, or I appreciate you. We all want to be, seen and valued and heard. How can you connect at a deeper level and make the time? Because that is the heartbeat of life. It's the heartbeat of leadership. It's the heartbeat of resilience. So I want you to think about how you do that. And it may look different. Anybody have any guesses as to what this is? This is Snapchat. This is how I communicate with my teenagers, because I can send a text. I don't hear from them in days. But if I send a snap, immediate response. So I have to learn, just like all of you, how do we meet people where they are? How do we connect at that deeper level? And then the fourth key is to keep it positive and stay grounded in optimism. I do not mean toxic positivity. I don't mean we're not in the middle of a pandemic and things aren't hard. What I mean is, even in the middle of all of this hard, you can dig deep and still find the good. How you show up right now matters. Your words, your thoughts, your actions, your attitude. How do you stop, shift, and reframe? How do you use your 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day and make sure they're good, focusing on what's going right instead of wrong, focusing on what's happening, for you instead of what's happening to you? And create what I call a 3-to-1 positivity ratio. So for every negative thought that you have, I want you to stop, shift, and reframe. And I want you to think of 3 positive things. 3 positive things. And think about your I am. I turned 50 this year. I made a list of 50 things I wanted to do by the end of my 50th year. One of the things on that list was to write letters to 50 people who've had an impact in my life. And for you right now in this moment, if someone were to write you a letter about how you're showing up, what would it say? And if you don't like what it says, you have the power to change it. That's your power. And in closing, I want you to remember this. I want you to stay grounded in laughter and gratitude. My mom, gave me this clown wig when I was going through my cancer, my son and I. He'll still wear his. We can't take photos. And I've continued to find that laughter. So for you, I want you to think about what's in your laugh file. Has there been a day that's gone by where you haven't laughed? I want you to get a laugh file, funny memes, funny videos, things that just make you laugh. And if nothing else, I want you to remember to laugh at yourself. I remember when I was going through my cancer, I was about halfway up the stairs and I peed my pants. I sat there and thought about it for a minute, and then I started laughing. Because here's the thing, I could have cried at the fact that my 2-year-old was potty trained, that my 2-year-old was potty trained and I was not, right? I could have cried at that, but instead I decided to laugh. And I'm still laughing because we're the house where the trampoline is. Want to know what happens when I try to jump on the trampoline right now? Yeah, dribble. Here's the thing. We all have to learn to laugh at ourselves. And laugh at each other. And that's a key to boosting your resilience. And then stay grounded in gratitude and in celebration. Gratitude. There's power and science behind that. I have a gratitude journal. I want you to get a gratitude journal. I want you to, you can also download an app. It's called 3 Good Things on your phone. 3 good things. Every day, at the end of every day, it asks you what went well today. And there's always something. And then how else can you celebrate? Not just the big things, the little everyday things. I want you to celebrate. Make a list of all the awesome things you accomplished over the last 20 months. And then celebrate those things. And then I want you to stay grounded in hope. What's bringing you hope right now? Hope for me are green bananas. I remember going through my cancer one day, and there were all these green bananas in the grocery store. I started putting them all in my cart. I took them home, I put them on my counter. Those green bananas to me signified hope. Hope that I would be here when they ripened. 20 years later, I still buy green bananas. So my question for you is right now in this moment, when there's so much uncertainty and people are overwhelmed and tired and exhausted, what's bringing you hope? What are your green bananas? And then keep moving forward no matter what. I want you to dig deep. I want you to grit up. And I want you to remember that you have one shot, one choice, and one today to rock your 1440 and I want you to take action. Imperfect action is better than no action at all. So share in the chat right now as we get ready to go into the panel. What's one thing that you're going to take action on after today's WISER conversation? What's one thing that you've learned that you can do? Because that imperfect action is better than no action at all. I'd love to stay connected. I'm going to turn it over back to Dina for an amazing panel with brilliant women who have a lot to share. I love seeing all the comments coming in. Dina, back to you.
Kim, thank you so much. What a great presentation. I love your energy. I love your advice. I've got my to-do list ready to go. It was wonderful. Thank you, Kim. As Kim said, now we are going to move right into the panel. We have some amazing women that are going to share advice with us, share their stories with us. So let's meet the panel now. We've got Stephanie Reganon. She is the Executive Director for Innovation Partnerships, the Danforth Plant Science Center. Dr. Jamila Owens-Todd, owner of the Golden Grocer and adjunct professor for St. Louis University. Gabrielle Cole. Gabby is the other half of the Fit and Food Connection. She is the co-founder and co-director, along with Joy. And Kelly Fisher, the Chief People Officer of Benson Hill. So welcome, ladies, and thank you for taking the time to be on this panel today. I really, really appreciate it. So let's just dive right in. So we are a year and a half into the pandemic. Women have made important gains in representation, and especially in senior leadership. But the pandemic, as Kim was talking about, has really taken a toll, and women are now significantly more burned out, more increasingly than men. So despite the added stress and exhaustion, women are rising to the moment as strong leaders, taking on that extra work that comes with this. Women are doing more to support their teams, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. How are you as leaders doing this with your organization? So Kelly, I would love it if you start the discussion.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks for having me. So, I'm fortunate enough to lead the HR function for Benson Hill, and we've had a lot of this discussion over the past, year and a half or so during the pandemic. And I'd probably highlight two areas of focus. And I'm also fortunate enough to say these were both driven by our team members within the organization. And it's nice as part of HR when it's not just HR driving the cultural change, right? So, both of these initiatives were really the underpinning of it was to just bring your whole self to work. And how do you build a culture of inclusivity to allow that to happen? So we did first focus on, with respect to inclusivity, really formalizing our DE&I efforts across the organization. And, I would say at first we had a big push, and even myself as well, to just get started, just start with some actions, et cetera. And I'd say the learning from that on my end is that, the set of initiatives and priorities for DE&I have to be really personal and custom to an organization. And so we ended up engaging a number of our team members to lead this effort for the company. And that's been really effective. And one of the outputs of that, which was a bit DE&I, but a bit coming from our engagement council, was a big focus on mental health awareness as well. And so we took an opportunity, I think it was this May, so it was this year, to highlight the whole month for mental health awareness. And part of that was, number one, in the spirit of bringing your whole self to work, one of the priorities was removing the stigma of mental health. And so we had leaders and team members alike that publicly told stories around their own struggles and challenges with mental health in different ways, which is a great moment of just vulnerability and growth for the organization. And then we focused a number of activities with respect to work-life balance discussions, had activities around meditation and yoga, and really expanded the idea of whole health beyond just physical. So those were two things that, sure, HR sponsored a bit, but we had a really all-in effort from our organization to really champion this bring your whole self to work effort to help counterbalance this stress and overwhelming feeling that we were all, faced with respect to the pandemic.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Kelly. Gabby, what about you?
Hi, Dina. How's it going? Thank you, everyone. So my name is Gabby Cole. I am the co-ED and co-founder at the Fit and Food Connection, where we provide a series of programming around wellness and healthy food assistance to families in North City and North County and the St. Louis, Missouri area. I'm also a justice fundraiser and a nonprofit consultant. So I spend a lot of my time organizing, managing, and building relationships in our community within the organization to see true change and impact while taking care of myself, right? Physically and mentally. I swear Kim hit all the points, all the points in your speech and your speaking really hit home for us, because we really work hard to create a space for our team to work and grow in a safe space that we like to call a culture of community and family. But we do that just so that we can keep the families that we serve at the forefront of our work. So like to have this space and in our work values as family is first, and that is the type of team we are, and it really matches for the community that we serve.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Gabby. And so Stephanie, as a leader, how are you doing this with your organization?
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Reganon. I'm the Executive Director of Innovation Partnerships at the Danforth Plant Science Center. Really thrilled to not only be here today with all of you, but especially with my panelists. I will just say in the prep call for this session, I expressed some serious vulnerability that day, that I wanted to be really honest in my answers today, in the fact that this past year and a half has been really hard. And I'm not, really afraid to say that in personal circles and even public circles like this, because I know that hopefully it either one connects with other people in my life, or with specifically younger women who may be feeling these same things. One thing that I've really tried to do, especially in this Zoom world where we're not bumping into each other in the hallways, is to try to be intentional to, one, include people that may not naturally be included in meetings, right? Other women or people of diversity that perhaps need to be included in meetings, because if we were seeing in the hallways, they would naturally be invited to things. And the reason why I feel the need to do that is because I don't even know what I don't know, having started this job in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know everybody. Luckily, I volunteered at the Danforth Center before I worked there. And so I knew some people, and they knew therefore to include me in different things. But in this ongoing pandemic world, we have to be intentional to include people. So that's one thing. The other thing is, in this Zoom world, we're so sick of it. We're so sick of this online environment that we go right into talking about work, right? We don't talk about how are you? No, how really, how are you? How are your kids? How are your parents? If you live alone, how are you? And I think that's so important. We've lost so much personal connection in these online meetings over the past couple months. It's been great to see people in person again. I used to be a real extrovert. As I got older, I was becoming more of an introvert, but I really had no idea until the last few weeks how much I needed human connection. So anyway, I'm thrilled to be here today, because I can tell this panel is going to have an honest conversation about this. We're not all knocking it dark every single day. And I think that we start to, and as Kim said, give ourselves grace for that. I actually think that in and of itself is enough a lot of days.
I love that. And you hit it on the head. It's always interesting to me on these WISER programs, bringing women together, the honesty and the openness that all of you are willing to share. And so Jamila, you're an entrepreneur, you own your own business, you're a professor. So what do you do to really support your team and your organization?
Yeah, I got a little tired when you start reading that, but yes, I'm Jamila Todd. I am a naturopathic doctor. I'm also an adjunct professor, and I am a business owner. And one of the things that I see that's consistent, whether it's a patient, whether they're students, or whether they're employees, is that they all require being heard. There's a certain level of empathy that you have to have. It's independent of what the group is. So being a leader in different kind of facets of my life, I don't see any difference in leadership. So with students, nowadays it's a struggle getting assignments in. With patients, keeping on a protocol is a challenge. With employees, personal life creeps into the workday. So I have to just step back and look at everyone as individuals, but try my best to be there in the most empathetic way. And that's, I would say, my leadership style, whether I wanted it to be or not. It's kind of like you have to be in this age. We're just kind of sacked and burdened with just life and trying to manage it the best way we can. So I have to kind of put myself aside in those moments and just be as present and listen and offer up as much guidance as I can. And then I have to do the same amount of work for myself. So my day is full, the day is full if you're managing others. And I always say I add myself to the calendar. So Dina, I will give you your full hour. I'll give someone else their full hour, but guess who's getting an hour as well? Me. And that's been my saving grace, because when I'm there with you, I want to give you 110% of me. But I can't give you anything if I haven't given it to myself. And that's the hard lesson. So it puts you in a corner sometimes because you have to shut off. You may not answer the call that needed. Someone mentioned, I think it was Kim, talked about the 3 text messages and reaching out, doing that at your own time when you're in a space to be able to do it is, I feel, how I'm able to continue to operate in these multiple roles. But trust me, I've had to learn the hard way to factor myself in. There's no other way to do it.
Mm-hmm. You hit on a really good point, being present in the moment. I think that's something that's very challenging, but when you do it and when you train yourself to do it, it can be really rewarding just to be focused on what you're doing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the next question, it's a little depressing, but it's true. I think we've all seen, 4 in 10 women have considered leaving their company or switching jobs because of this pandemic. Women have left the workforce. There's high employee turnover in recent months, and it suggests that many of them are following through as far as leaving their jobs. So what do you think needs to be done to retain women in the workforce? And Gabby, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. So having a personal and work-life balance is super important. Being able to intertwine your work and your family, for me, is super important when you think about how can we keep women working and at their current places of employment or in your businesses and in your projects. Connecting with our values and morals through the work is how to do that. Losing the micromanaging, trusting the teams that you build, and center the work around family work culture is literally like some very simple steps and answers to help retain women in the workplace. Provide a place for us to show up as ourselves, right? Like, I have a small child. I can get crazy. My husband may walk behind me, no filter. So like really understanding that as we are in a place where we are constantly on our phones and we have access to every single thing, we can be out of touch with reality. And so taking a step back and understanding that, yes, we're on a Zoom call. Yes, we're in a virtual world. Yes, we're in a pandemic, but the reality is we're all still human beings. And so treating us in that manner, like letting us show up unfiltered, right? There's no filter, there's no Snapchat, there's no alterations of who we are, and being able to show up to work as ourselves. I saw a blog or like an article the other week about a woman, and she was just like, I'm gotta go back to work. I gotta put makeup on. I gotta dress up. And I'm like, she's like, I'm not doing it. Like, she went back to work with some normal, like some decent clothes on, pure natural face, and was fine. Like, people didn't even realize the difference, and it was more so in her head. So it's like, if we can have a space where we can show up as ourselves, I think that is so important for many businesses and for myself as I, lead teams and work through and lead large projects, and just having a space for my my groups to just show up as themselves. There's no amount of money that is going to keep this generation of women working in toxic environments. So I think having that space is important.
Mm-hmm. Jamila, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I did have an additional role added onto my list before, as of recently, that I left. And, you know, I do understand how we are in the workplace. I understand how women are often not invited to some meetings, and I understand how that is very persistent in our culture. I also understand that we sign up for things. I always ask, what contract did you sign? Meaning, did I sign on the role to take care of, you know, the team, and then to become the house mother, and then to clean up the kitchen after lunch? So I always had to consider myself. I understand when I am with someone, as I was mentioning, just being present, that I do want to give you as much as I can, but there is a tendency to want to do that role not just well, but exceedingly well. There is a tendency to accept the role of a nurturer, and we have these many hats. No one is forcing us to do this. It's kind of like we're signing up to do it on our own. So an example, I remember seeing this image of a woman in a business suit with an apron and a hard hat, and it's read underneath, "I'll do it." It actually said, "F it, I'll do it." And I know I'm that person. So when I'm in a role and it's like things are not getting done, I'm going to do it. And it's to a point to where it becomes a pathology. I am injuring myself by overcommitting, by taking on roles because I know I'm going to get it done, by wanting to show up and be the best at what I can do. And at some point, this no longer serves me. So I have to make the decision to walk away. I think in every position that we have, we are there by choice. We can choose to submit to the role in its fullest. We can choose to be a part of the politics, or we can choose to not show up at all and leave and exit. And it's not a fault of the business or the agency or the institution. It's more so understanding what your needs are and trusting. So I have come to that place where it was a time for exit. And I can't, and I have no reason to point the finger to anyone but to myself for creating the pathology, the injury of over committing and overdoing until I realize that's no longer serving me. It's easy to stay in a role. It's easy. It's easy to stay amongst, you know, the pain of it being, you know, another load to your day. It's easy to stay on in a role despite it taking up 1,399 seconds of that day because you've overcommitted, because you've logged back on the computer at 7:59 p.m. That was your choice. Yeah, it can be expected, but then it's ultimately up to me to know when to set those boundaries. And, you know, we talked about change, Kim did, and, you know, I always say the only constant in life is change. And if I'm in this comfortable position that is painful, that is injuring me, that I am consistently wounding myself, there is no other option but to change and then go with the flow of that change.
So Kelly and Stephanie, I'll turn to both of you because you're both with larger organizations, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on retaining women in the workforce, or how did you extend flexibility within your organization and really manage things remotely? Stephanie?
Yeah, so I switched jobs in the middle of the pandemic, and I got to tell you, I didn't take that lightly. And there were days I regretted adding the chaos to my life, although I didn't regret making the job change, right? I love where I'm at. And to be honest, it was the values of the organization where I'm at that kind of sealed it for me. I think in the context of the things that we're talking about, I think it's not about people don't still want to work hard or aren't willing to put in long hours, although we're all wanting to put that in check. If we feel that we as individuals align with the values of the organizations we're giving that time to, we're willing to do it, right? And so, you know, there's that. But I will just say switching jobs in the middle of the pandemic was very, very difficult. It's always stressful. I knew it would be stressful, but here I am last summer wondering if my kid was going to be in school in fall of 2020, and I switched jobs in the middle of that, and it was just really stressful. So I have a special just sympathy for people who powered through that this last year. And almost everybody I know that did it personally, it was a very good move, but still very stressful. In terms of extending the flexibility, so I don't know what this is going to look like in a couple months. The vaccination rates are moving in the right direction, and everybody's in some ways getting back to a lot of normalcy, and it's really great. But I can tell there are going to be very unique situations. There is not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to this. I would like to extend the same amount of flexibility to my team that I want extended to me by my boss too, right? And I sense that in my organization. I don't know that that is going to be across the board in a lot of other companies. And I think we need to be really eyes wide open as a society for people who get to surround themselves by people who may enjoy more flexibility on the other side of this than others. And I think there will be kind of an ongoing tension to that. So there is no book for this. There's no black and white. There's no rules. And I'll tell you, I just told our HR people this week that it's HR people and the CEOs where the buck stopped this last year that I have, that I'm glad I wasn't sitting in some of those roles, honestly, because this is still tough stuff, even as we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Kelly, you were sitting in that role. So, I mean, please share with us, what your organization did and how you really managed all that, giving people flexibility and respecting people's needs and so forth.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I certainly remember even my own experience when the pandemic first hit, and both my husband and I were at home, full-time jobs. I've got at the time, a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old then, who you've got to be tending to them at every minute, right? And so I remember the pressures of that, and was glad I went through that, because it was an acknowledgement that certainly all of our team members were in, similar situations. A couple of things that we did. Number one, we certainly tried to focus team by team on what worked for them with respect to flexibility and what the unique pressures are. I think we learned very quickly that, to the earlier comment from Stephanie, there's not a one size fits all approach. And many of us want like a black and white policy for us to understand what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what are the rules of the road. But myself as an HR practitioner, I really believe in building a workforce of, that understands context and discretion and can make decisions that balance the need of the business plus the individual collectively. And so I think we came up with a couple, really nice best practices that were employed throughout the organization where it made sense. But for my team in particular, I remember creating like a weekly schedule of when each person was totally out of pocket throughout the day. And there were like maybe 3 or 4 hours where people were just, don't even ask me anything. I'm with the kids. And I had blocks of time that, where my husband had to be on his conference call, right? And I had to be with the children. And so we knew exactly what we were going to get from each person, and no apologies that we didn't meet the 8-hour day requirement, right? That just was what it was. We then, I would say more broadly across the organization, did formally, informally really kick off a better work-life balance effort, again, without a formal policy, but we leveraged our, again, team members across the organization, our engagement group, to really start to form some best practices. And they had the same insight that at first they tried to create a perfect stance right on it, and then learned that it was more about building like a capability within the organization of employees learning to advocate for themselves and setting their own personal boundaries, and leaders learning how to have that discussion in the moment and balance what their need was with what the business need is and what's the right decision in between it. And so I thought it was so interesting. And before I had this call, actually, I huddled with them to say, what are the new learnings you guys have come up with? Because I wanted to reflect their voice properly. But I loved hearing some of their tactics, like, of course, some people want to check their email while they're on PTO, and some don't. And some have in their email signature that says, my hours are not your hours. Don't feel a need to respond after hours if you get this, late at night, in their email signature. And some people use technology like Teams to like, you can block what your hours are, like 7 to 7, and after 7, you just don't get any notifications. And so they're controlling the inflow of information when they're going to receive it, so they can be more present at home. And I would say on my end, when I first started with a company in 2019, and I report to the CEO, I had a 6-month-old and then a 2.5-year-old at the time. And at very fast-paced growing company and new to role. And one of the first things in my first month I said to him was, I don't take calls between, 5:15 and 7:30 at night. And so you can call, but I won't answer. My ringer is always off. And afterwards, if it's still a need, I'll get back to you. And what's really cool is, my boss, he knows the bedtime of my children, right? So he knows he's not going to bother me during that time. And my secret tip to everyone is typically if you set that type of boundary, the things resolve itself before you have to even get back to it. And people learn to figure things out on their own. They learn that it's not a super high priority. And suddenly your evenings are a bit back to normal. You can focus on your family. So thanks. So I thought that was great. It's worked really well. And I tell that story openly to our team members to say, I was 1 month in and said that to our CEO. He received it really well, was super supportive. So state your boundary and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I have to say, Benson Hill's a great company, and your CEO has hired many rock star women, so I commend him for that. It's you got a great team there. So you're talking about the challenges and everything that you've gone through the pandemic, and so how do you stay engaged and excited and enthused about your work, even though you feel overwhelmed? So, Jamila.
Yeah, for me, I always think about why did I do this in the first place? Like, why did I sign up for this role, or why did I spend this much time in school? Or, and I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy for me because it's always promoting the wellness of others. Like, that's my whole purpose and mission through every opportunity that I've had. So that's what gets me up and going. That's what gets me kind of enthused. And then when I see that other people are attaching to that, it's pretty cool. So I always go back to the core of why am I here? Again, I think of everything as a choice. So I can either be here or not. And why am I choosing to stay and participate? It's because I am doing the work that I really wanted to do. And I'm very fortunate to have that, to be able to be doing what I've always wanted. So when you see that, it's great. I always think about the artist. I'm not an artist. I'm not the creative type, but artists who always talk about monetizing the art kind of takes away from the passion of it. So sometimes you get into the field of what you want to do and you get into the nitty gritty business details of it that aren't always fun. But even those little layers of, getting on the phone with the accountant and calling and having an HR issue, it still brings you back to why did I choose to do it? So I really try to keep that at the forefront and then have the conversation about why are we doing this? So it's not just an insular conversation with myself, but I'll talk to the team about why are you here? Why are you learning? So why are we here at work today? Like, what's the motivation for us being here? Why is this facility open? So just one way to go about it.
Yeah. And so Kelly, you kind of touched on the company culture, but so how do you keep the excitement going and the passion going there?
Yeah, I mean, I am lucky that we have a very mission forward type of company, and our team members are very much that way as well. People are here because they want to make an impact. And so it is actually really important to the question that we manage the overwhelming feeling and keep people energized and excited. We're a high growth company and who also just went public. So there's been a lot to be overwhelmed by, I would say, for the organization, and that's normal. I think the first tip I usually like to share with people is, and even when I feel overwhelmed, I try to remind myself that it's because in a way we're in demand, right? Like my family needs me, the work needs me, community needs me. There are a lot of things that need our attention, and that's a valuable place to be, certainly. But I also try to remind myself that this is a moment for me to learn and grow and figure out how to be either more effective, prioritize better, make better strategic choices around what I spend my time on and don't. And with all of those choices, to the earlier comment, of course, does have to be time for myself, my mental health, my time for my family, and that's part of the pie. But when I'm overwhelmed, my behavior has sort of skewed a different way, right? And so it's an opportunity to recalibrate. And the second part I would say is, I've really tried to shift, especially in this role over the past 2 years, where I've probably felt candidly the most overwhelmed that I've ever felt in my career. And I think there's COVID, it's a high growth company, it's a role that I hadn't done before. There are a lot of reasons why I felt that way. but I've shifted my mindset around what success looks like. And success in my role for me means learning and growing. It doesn't mean that it's always an A+ perfect output that I have, right? Sometimes just getting it done or getting the basics done or getting something across the finish line, or sometimes just being mindful and keeping my patience in the moment is success. But I've really shifted my mindset to like, what does good look like? And that has helped me give grace to myself and manage an overwhelmed feeling in those moments.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of touched on, all the juggling with your family. Kim talked about your kids and your parents and everything. So what do you do to keep family first, but also keep work and your career front and center during the pandemic? Gabby?
Yes, such an important topic. Last year I realized what was important to me. And not to say that I didn't realize these things way before a pandemic, but like it really sunk in like last year. And that is my family, my health, and the community we serve. And this is how I was able to like narrow work projects and start to say no if it did not connect or fit in alignment with that work-life balance of morals and priorities that I set for myself. And so that, keeping my family and my loved ones, in the space of my work and understanding that that comes first. And if I can do both at the same time and not jeopardize, what my kids need and what my husband needs and what my family needs, then okay. And setting some boundaries around that, my why, my passion, and what is important to me. And because of this, my boundaries are becoming super solid this year, y'all. And I'm so excited and happy about it. I feel amazing. Not to say that things are perfect. And I do have things that I am constantly working on every day, which is why I put it in a calendar, because if it's not in a calendar, it is not happening. And so, with that, I'm able to say, no, I cannot do a speaking engagement that you told me about last week. No, I cannot show you how to start a nonprofit. No, I cannot take a call at 7 p.m. And I just learned to say no and be comfortable with that and accept that and know that that is okay. And I think once we give ourselves grace to say those things aloud and be comfortable with that, people, like Kelly said, will start to learn how to do things for themselves and not need so much from you. My children cannot do things on their own and they didn't ask to be here. And so that is important to me, and I will be there for them and have to say no to some things.
Yeah, you need that no button that Kim has.
No. Send me one, Kim, please.
Yeah. So who else wants to jump in on that and just kind of talk about how you kept your family first and during the pandemic?
Dina, I'll jump in here. So before the pandemic and in my old career, I traveled a couple days almost every single week. And so for me with my daughter, it was really more about quality than quantity. And that job lent itself that when I was home, I was able to take her to school and pick her up and really spend a lot of very present time with her. That flipped on its head, right, in COVID. So I was home with her every day, but I would say the quality of our hanging out most days was not great. It felt like survival a lot of days. And here we are kind of getting back to normal. She's back in school. Work is settling in a little bit. And I am finding that I really need to figure out what that's going to look like, right? The quality piece of it, because she has seen me very stressed over the last year. And I know that she was always so proud of the job that I did and the things that I do. And then she saw it wearing on me in a way that she never had before. And so she's 12. And I want her to know that we need to still work really hard and love what we do. But there's going to be tough times. I'm hoping she never has one of these 18-month tough times, right? But so I'm figuring that out, I will just say. But normalcy is helping, but nothing like, seeing them see you stressed is a huge reality check and a huge perspective giver. And so we've had many of those moments, and I would say things are pretty good today, but like, it just is amazing the shift that occurred even in those short 2 months of my thoughts around the quality versus quantity of the time I spend with my kid.
Yeah, definitely. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I want to get this last question in because I think it's really important. And what I've learned doing these WISER events are the people that are participating love to hear what you're doing as far as what keeps you physically, mentally in check. What is your self-care? Are there books? Are there podcasts? Like, what do you do to really take care of yourself, motivate yourself, et cetera? So, Jamila, I'll start with you.
Yeah, walking is my medicine, and I'm not often it's not a speed walk, and I have to kind of turn that off. And I get little 90-year-old ladies speeding past me some days on the walk. But just being outdoors in nature is honestly some of the best medicine I could have. And I've been out there when it was 22 degrees. My spouse thought I was crazy. I'll just bundle up because it's the one area I can just let it all go. I can release and not hold on to things. And so the movement itself, I feel like, is a release, the breathing in the brisk air, walking amongst the trees. I know Ellie asked for a podcast. I try to avoid technology as much as I can when I am trying to de-stress or debrief because I'm, living on Zoom these days. But yeah, that's my go-to.
Love it. And right now, if you have time to walk at Forest Park, the leaves are changing. It's beautiful.
That's
Beautiful over there. It's so pretty. Callie?
Yeah. So I would say before the pandemic, my focus is probably more on physical health, right? Running and different sports. And that has fallen a bit to the wayside, if you will, over the past year and a half. But the nice part is I think in that I've shifted much more towards mental health. And so my first piece of advice is give yourself some grace if that is what has happened, right? And mental health is just as important. So a couple of tactics. I mean, number one, I've learned that usually my priority is to get enough sleep. So I need more sleep than the average bear, I like to say, and that's okay. And I need to get that, right? I can sleep as much as my children sometimes, but if I'm short on sleep, I get sick, I'm snappy, I'm not my best parent, and I'm not my best self at work. So that's number one priority. The other piece I would say is I really have gotten learned quite a bit about just daily mindfulness and meditation. So a couple of books for that. Dan Harris is a great author. He writes 2 different books. It just teaches you about meditation, different types of meditation. He has a really comical way of writing, so it's just an enjoyable book. And then Tara Brock is really fantastic in way of, she has some podcasts, so some guided talks and then guided meditation. But it's, for me, that has taught me not just the practice of meditation at times, which I do take breaks at work and lock myself in a room and give myself 5 or 10 minutes on one of these, but it also teaches, just as you move through the day, how to take a stressful situation and not absorb it and let it impact you emotionally and ruin your day. So those are just like daily mental health tactics that I've employed most recently, and just allowed myself grace that I'll get back to the physical part when I have time to.
That's great. Gabby?
Oh yes, all the things. During the pandemic, and especially when it first started, I realized that I need to set boundaries. I was always connected to everyone and anybody and anything that it really took a toll on like my physical and mental well-being. So getting, these feelings of feeling unappreciated, anxious, unmotivated, irritated, scared, any adjective, adverb you can think of, I probably felt it. So with that being said, if it's not on my calendar, this is so true, like it will not happen. And so I put physical exercise into my calendar wherever I saw a break, and if it for me, and I'm able to get to the space and then back into my work at a reasonable time, I just put it on my calendar. I practice hot yoga at Pure Hot Yoga in Clayton, Missouri 4 times a week. And it helps me a lot with grounding and focusing and just letting go for an hour and just cleaning my body up, like toxins and whatever I did the previous day or earlier, like just to feel good about myself and have a moment of quietness. I'm very introverted. So having that space to just like relax, be alone, focus is what I would suggest discovering for thyself. And I said work boundaries. I talk about boundaries, I think, this entire panel conversation because it's super important to me, and just not taking on a lot of last minute meetings on Sunday. So Sunday I do a lot of like assessment of the previous week and just checking and making sure I'm ready for the this week to come. And if there's not a meeting on the calendar within that week, like I can't do it because I don't want to, you know, say no to something else or like give half my attention or just rush to put something together because I just wasn't prepared for it. What else? I also like to read a lot of like romance books to help me like disconnect and just feel myself. So that is something I would suggest, you know, just finding out who you are and thinking about what you like to do. And then just getting some sleep, eating some good food, and hydrating. I have learned that those three things helped me in so many ways with my physical health. Going into the doctor and after having my children, I had some health issues. And so doing those three things literally helped me like learn about myself in ways that I can't even imagine to help me get to like setting boundaries and making sure I'm working out and managing my time as best as I can. So that is
Thank you. That's awesome. And Stephanie?
Yeah, so coffee. I drink more coffee than I used to. And I love it. I really didn't understand the obsession with coffee until COVID, and I'm not going back. So there's that. But honestly, as an only child and with dogs and cats and everything, I need to be alone and in silence. I used to not need that. And I'm very lucky to have a spouse that can read that on me sometimes and lets me get away alone. You know, I just really need to recharge and recalibrate sometimes by myself. And that's a huge indulgence and that maybe a lot of people aren't afforded, but if you can, I do think it's very helpful. I would love to get back to working out like I did pre-pandemic. It just hasn't happened. Kelly, I hear you. I have really tried to shift to the mental health side of things. But so that's what I find is really good for me.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Joy, Kim, Gabby, Kelly, Stephanie, Jamila, thank you for your energy and enthusiasm and advice and honesty, I have to say. I would also like to thank all of our sponsors for today. We could not do these programs without our sponsors. And then I want to thank all the participants who took time out of their busy days to be with us today, and ask you to follow Missouri Cures on social media. We put out 3 to 4 medical research stories a week. And since you registered for this event, you'll get all of our invitations for our 2022 events. This is our last 2021 event, and you'll also receive our newsletters. So again, thank you to everyone and have an amazing weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.